And now I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, The Right Skills for Cybersecurity. I'm going to hand things over to our featured presenter today. He is the president of CertNexus, Jeff Felice. Jeff, you now have the floor.
Great, thank you so much, Mayan, and thank you everyone for joining today. Greatly appreciate you taking the time out of your day. As Mayan said, today we're going to talk about the right skills for cybersecurity. So we'll start again. My name is Jeff Felice, and I serve as the president of CertNexus. If you're not familiar with CertNexus, we are a certification body focused on vendor-neutral emerging technologies, providing micro-credentials for business professionals and certification programs for data development, IT, and security professionals. We are a global company. We have worked with organizations across the world and have exam candidates that have come from across 50 countries. And as you would expect with emerging technologies in cybersecurity across all industries and both public and private as well. So what will we learn today? We're going to explore two areas. The first is the most in-demand cybersecurity job roles. We're going to look at it from a global perspective, and then we're going to focus in on the USA. And the reason for that is there's a really great tool that's available to all of us, freely available, and using that really to look not only at the USA, but then able to extrapolate that out to other parts of the world. And then we're going to discuss how we acquire these appropriate skills to perform the most critical tasks that are in need today within the cybersecurity profession. But before we get started, we always like to start with a poll. So this will be our first poll today. And Mayan's going to make that available.
All right, I just launched the poll.
Great. And what we're looking to understand in this first poll is where you are in as far as your cybersecurity journey.
All right, I'll let this poll go live for a few more seconds here and let everyone have a chance to participate. All right, let's see here, taking a look at the results. We have 19% saying they're entirely new to IT, but interested in cybersecurity. 38% have been in IT for a while and they're thinking about a cybersecurity career. 24% say that they are a cybersecurity professional with a couple years. 10% say they are a long-time cyber pro, and we have another 10% saying they're not a cyber professional but want to know more.
Great, great. So it's great to see that distribution, and hopefully the information, it will be pertinent to everyone. We really attempted to make it pertinent to all those audiences that are just described. So whether you're in the IT profession or potentially new to IT, or a new cybersecurity professional, or someone that's been in the profession for a long time, or someone that just wants to know more about it, we will try to capture information or present information for all of you today. So thank you for sharing that information. So I always like to start with a statistic that gives us an understanding of our current state. And so this is a report that's done by IBM. They have their security cost of data breach report that they provide every year. And in the report, they state that the average time to identify and contain a data breach is 280 days. So think about that. Think about a cyber incident that occurs today. On average, companies are not able to identify and contain that breach until July 15th of 2021. Think about the risk that poses for any single organization, right? So whether someone's in your infrastructure and they're accessing your data, or otherwise any other intellectual IP that you may have, or disrupting the flow of your business. So that is our current state. Despite all...
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All the hardware solutions that we've deployed, software solutions that we've layered on top of that, and even despite our best attempts to prepare our organizations, we're still not able to, have not been able to reduce the time to identify and contain a breach. So think about that. It essentially takes 2/3 of a year to do this today. So it's something that we, as in the cybersecurity profession, have been intensely focused on, and much of this, again, improving our hardware and software solutions, but also the skills that we have as individuals to reduce this time frame as well. Part of the challenge is, the fact is that there's not enough cybersecurity professionals today. So this is a report that's from ISC Squared, and they completed a workforce study in 2019. And some may say, yes, COVID has changed the number, but that's really due to more to financial or budgetary constraints than it is actual need. The need for cybersecurity professionals is actually even grown throughout COVID, because many bad actors are taking advantage of this vulnerability that we have globally and trying to take advantage of that to prosper from it. So the fact is that prior to COVID, ISC Squared noted that there was about 4 million open cybersecurity jobs across the world. Whether you're sitting in the USA today with us, there's over 500,000 jobs, in Latin America, slightly more, Europe, 2/3 of that number, and across Asia, over 2.5 million jobs that are open in the cybersecurity profession. So the fact is that, again, that 280 days is a result of several factors. One is that, unfortunately, the bad actors are a half a step ahead, and a lot of that is because they don't have the constraints we do as businesses. Two is that we don't have enough people in the profession today. So even the people who answered here that they are in the cybersecurity profession, whether you've been in it for 2 years or for a longer period of time, you know your workload has increased dramatically and only continues to increase, and you need more hands to help, right? So we realize that this is contributing to the problem, and this skills gap is something that we are, as again, an industry, trying to bridge. And thanks to you for joining us today. With this information that we gained from webinars like today, we hopefully will be able to do so. And the need is really across all levels. So depending on where you are in your journey today, you may be time in a technical profession and may look to move to a management or a senior level role. Or it may be that you're going to remain in a technical role, but do something different than you are doing today. Regardless, the fact is there is needs across all levels. But the greatest need is at that individual contributor level. We don't have enough SOC analysts. We don't have enough pen testers. We don't have enough cybersecurity analysts. There's just too few of those individuals today. Those that are cybersecurity managers, you can still see there's a great need. The dark green bar means there's an increase. The light change and the orange is, you can see there's very little decrease across this study. And I should have stated this study was done by ISACA, and it's their state of cybersecurity study that they do on an annual basis. Even if the executive or C-suite, there's still a gap. Although that gap you can see is much smaller than that individual contributor level. That really is the greatest opportunity for someone that is in IT or potentially new to cybersecurity and wants to enter the field. There's again a significant gap and great opportunity. For those who are transitioning from IT maybe to a managerial or at a senior level, again, there's opportunities to do so as well. So let's drill into we're going to do this in the USA. For those who are based in the US, there's a fabulous tool that is available, cyberseek.org. If you're not familiar with it, they have two primary tools. One is this supply and demand heat map, and another is a pathways. So you can look at, based on goals and skills, what types of training you would need along your pathway. Why I'm using this, even for those who are not located inside the US, this gives a really good representation of some of the challenges we're seeing as far as the gaps between, again, the need and those that have skills. So I'm just going to take you through the map briefly. We're going to focus on a few different points. First, you can see, again, it being a map of the US, and this is color-coded based on need. So the darker the color, the more the need. So you can see in states like California and Texas and Florida and North Carolina, Virginia, and New York, that there's a significant need for talent. But you can see that there's actually a need for talent across all of the US. And again, if we were on the website, you can see that you can actually click into each state, and with each state get specific state data about that state. What we can see on a national level is that right now there's roughly slightly less than 1 million people that are employed in the cybersecurity workforce, and there's 500,000 jobs that are open today. Now I realize, some are going to say, well, I'm in the profession and I'm having difficulty getting a job. And again, that may be due to a multitude of reasons. One is potentially location, although that's becoming less of a challenge because of more availability of remote work. But it may be location. It may be the level of the type of skills you have, or the level of skills. It may be in some cases, I know, for example, if you're based in the greater Washington, D.C. area, it may be security clearances are required, or also if you're, located near an Army base or some type of armed forces base, those types of jobs are in demand, but again, have the added element of a security clearance. But the fact is that there's still 500,000 jobs that are available today. This data that is actually collected through CyberSeek, it's actually, the platform is provided by Burning Glass. They're actually, what they're doing is they're taking data from multiple data points, job sites, and other data repositories where jobs are posted, and bring this is an updated basis, so an accurate picture of job availability in the US. I think what's also important to understand here is that a couple things, that the supply of security workers, as we look next to it, is very low, right? So again, you look at other professions where there's more individuals in those roles, or the supply is greater than the demand, right? We could see that in a number today that have struggled prior to COVID, and even more so during COVID. And then you can also see the geographic concentration. And again, anyone that's based in the US, I'd advise that you click on your state, and you can see that the information that's specific to your geographical region. We'll talk a little bit about the cybersecurity job roles later on. But again, even if you're not in the US, what is representative of the fact is there is a skills gap. And with tools like what's CyberSeek, we have another viewpoint into them to realize that, hey, there is a great need, and that we need to be developing skills to meet this need. So we're going to go into our second poll here. And if my end can display that.
All right, I just launched the second poll.
Great. Maya, would you mind reading?
Sure. The question here in the second poll is, what role do you think is most in demand within cybersecurity? SOC analysts, pen testers, chief information officers, or ethical hackers?
Get everyone an opportunity to answer.
All right, I'm going to close the poll now. We have 65% saying SOC analyst, 14% saying pen testers, 3% saying the chief information officer role, and 19% saying ethical hackers.
Great. And for those who answered SOC analyst, you are correct. In fact, all of those roles are in demand today, but the SOC analyst is the most in demand role, or like roles like a SOC analyst. So it doesn't mean that there's not a need for CISOs or ethical hackers or other roles. There are. Again, there's over 500,000 jobs open in the US and millions of jobs globally. But the most demand is the SOC analyst. And we're going to discuss, we're going to dig in a little bit and see why that is true. So first of all, I'd like to start with an image of how cybersecurity is portrayed. I think many individuals outside of the IT and security space, when they think about cybersecurity, they think about what is portrayed in movies, right? Typically, it's this, character in a hoodie, their basement or dark, damp place, or well, probably not damp because of computers, but a dark place. And like this environment here, right? Essentially, there's multiple screens up. They're typing this code that is faster than most of us can type. But the fact is, that's not what cybersecurity is, right? Cybersecurity is about security. It's not about hacking, right? What we're trying to do is prevent people from hacking, right? So the bad actors, some of them may be in these dark places wearing hoodies, but many of them are socially engineering us and doing that in ways that are out in the open, in bright, airy places, right? Or in our own organizations. So the fact is that although we can think of these bad actors as that, they're criminals acting in nefarious, and we do need to prevent them from doing that. But from a cybersecurity standpoint, we have to think about our defensive posture. Again, we may take offensive measures at times, but we have to think about how we essentially halt the progress of these bad actors and their actions, and protect our organization or individuals. So I want to share this statistic or a quote that came from Gartner. What they identified was in the mid-2010s that enterprises were starting to transform their security spending, moving away from prevention-only approaches to more of a focus on detection and response. And this is really important because this shift happened because what they recognized was that despite all the spend again on hardware solutions, talking about firewall endpoint solutions, in software solutions, again, whether those are network solutions or virus scanning, phishing, having phishing simulators, et cetera, all those are good spends. So they're not that they're bad spends. But what they realized was that what returned the greatest return on investment for an organization was focusing on detection and response, essentially reducing those 280 days. So there was another actual study done by IBM, and they said the greatest factor that an organization, or the greatest factor that impacts an organization to be able to contain and respond to a breach was having a CERT team. It's essentially incident response team. And we've seen this from a technical profession as well, is not that we're not going to still again have people that are going to be involved in the identification and protection of our environment. But what we're going to do is, and what we've seen is the spend to be more heavily on the detection and response. And again, that's where the greatest gap in skills are today, is how do we develop people that have the ability to detect a potential threat to their organization, and then how to identify it as quickly as possible and to respond to it. And we see that in this shift is reflected now in cybersecurity job roles. There's another report that was been done on, I apologize, this is mislabeled as ISACA, ISC Squared did this report. And they looked at the cybersecurity team roles. And so what they looked at is what are the current average percentage of team roles and what's the ideal average. And they're pretty well aligned, as you can see, between the light green and the dark green. But I think what was most eye-opening, I know for me when I saw this report, was how dramatic the shift has been to detection and response. The fact is, if you look at it, you can see that roughly 70% of the roles are in the detection and response areas. Again, it doesn't mean that we're foregoing the ability to identify and protect. We need to do that. But the majority of the spend from a technology standpoint now is, hardware and software is in detection and response, but also the roles to operate those solutions and otherwise provide the services we need to our global organizations. So it starts with security operations up top. So those SOC analysts, we talk about security administration, risk management, compliance. Again, a lot of those, again, what we'll call, when we'll learn, is more blue team type activities. And then we'll get down into some of the more offensive measures as well. But again, the distribution of talent now is shifting more and more to defensive measures. Defense in this scenario is a bad place to be. The fact is, again, we are, the good actors, right? The folks that are working on behalf of their organizations, they are doing so in, having to do so within the realm of trying to, of laws, right? And regulations and processes and expectations of organizations. So we're doing the best we can. We're going to continue to improve, and part of that is by employing more people in the profession itself. So one of the things I want to focus on again is when we look at this, going back to this Cybersecurity map, and again, this is quite representative across the world. Again, we have the opportunity to work with many partners in all regions, and we see a very similar type of need, which is really around those job roles, such as we just saw, an engineer, an analyst, consultant, systems engineers, networking engineers, vulnerability analysts. So again, a lot of the roles, again, as we'll see, are on those what we call blue team roles, those defensive measures. And again, when we go outside of the U.S., you're going to see much of the same thing. Obviously, it can vary slightly on region to region. And again, not to say there's not those offensive jobs that are still in need. They are, but the greater need right now is in the blue, within the blue team. So that moves us to our next poll, poll number 3. And Mayan, if you could display that and read that for us as well.
All right, the next poll is up. The question is, which of the following are blue team skills? And you select 2 of those answers. We have pen testing, threat hunting, incident response, and ethical hacking.
Great.
All right, I'll give everyone a few more seconds here to answer. All right, I'm going to close the poll here. Well, we have 27% saying it's pen testing, 50% saying threat hunting, 70% saying incident response, and 33% saying it's ethical hacking here.
Right. And the most correct answers, I should say, because all of them could be could fall into these the blue team potentially, especially as we get into what we'll call purple teaming. But the 2 most correct is incident response and threat hunting. And it just goes to show that even some of the language we use in identifying these roles, you would think of a threat hunter, you would think of that as a very offensive measure, but it really is a defensive positioning. Again, we are hunting threats, but we're doing that from a defensive position. So again, it could be construed that any of those could be on again, that purple team, but the incident response and threat hunting are, again, as most people selected, are the most correct answers. Great, thank you. We're going to move on now. And we're going to talk about, we talked a little bit about the need for these jobs, but now we want to talk more about what are the skills we needed to develop to fill these jobs, or potentially if you're in a cybersecurity career, how to advance within cybersecurity. So those are not familiar, the NIST within the US has developed the NICE Cybersecurity Workforce Framework. This has been developed in the US, but is becoming more of a global standard. So I had the opportunity last year to attend the NICE conference. And there was literally people from all 6 continents that attended, and are either leveraging the NICE framework as is, or looking to potentially expand upon it, or use portions of it within their own nations. But what this framework has done is it helping us to better understand what is the need based on a singular construct. And with that, meaning 2 things, because one of the challenges we have right now, if you're an HR learning development professional, is how do you write a job description for a specific role? And if you're a job seeker, or looking to advance in your cybersecurity career, how do you know what the next job is and what the skills are that are required to do that job? And there's been a huge disconnect in the industry. And so what the nice group and its committees are attempting to do, working with HR and L&D professionals, working with apprenticeship programs, working with academia and with industry, is come together with this common mapping that we can utilize to help inform what the jobs are and what the actual skills are needed. And again, for individuals to better understand that so as they develop themselves into those jobs. It starts with 7 categories. You can read the categories here. I'm not going to read them to you, but these serve as a high-level grouping of common cybersecurity functions. Again, we could pick these apart and say, well, is protect and defend, is that really a category or not? But it's been generally agreed to by NICE and all the participants that actually have not only have developed this framework, but have the ability to comment on it. These are the 7 categories that have been agreed upon. Within those 7 categories, there's specialty areas. There's actually, in fact, 33 of these areas. And these are distinct areas of cybersecurity and work. So if I actually expand on protect and defend, within that, there's 4 specialty areas. You can see cyber defense analysts, cyber defense infrastructure support, incident response, and vulnerability and assessment and management. So again, these are essentially areas of cybersecurity work that would fall into a specific category. If we drill down a little bit further, we can now get into the job roles. And at this time, the NICE Cybersecurity Workforce Framework is comprised of 52 job roles. That may shift over time as other jobs are identified and potentially included, but they've identified 52 of those. And within each of these job roles, the job role is identified, so you can see what it does, the person in this role does, which is investigates, analyzes, responds to cyber incidents within an environment. But you also you can expand and look at what are the abilities, knowledge, and skills someone needs to perform in this job role and the tasks they're most likely to perform. So what NICE has done is it's essentially taken some of the guesswork out of identifying, again, these categories and all the way down to the job roles, and not only the job roles, but what do I need to do to perform in this job? So, and I neglected, and maybe Mayanne after the webinar we can provide it, but I neglected to include the link. But there is a link to this tool set. It's freely available to everyone. Again, whether you're a HR and L&D professional that is writing a job description or a job seeker, you would have access to this information. So, you can take the look at the NICE framework, and I think that's a great structure to start within. But if you're looking to develop your career, you really have to think about where you are or where you want to be. Or if you're a professional that is deciding on the career trajectory of an individual, you have to do the same thing. You have to take stock of where am I, and what do I think I have the aptitude to learn, and again, a desire to do so. So am I at that entry level? And entry level is not a bad place to be, right? We all have to start from somewhere. But if I am, what are the appropriate skills that I need for those entry level positions? As I move into mid-level positions, some of that's going to be gained through experience, other of that's going to be gained through training and validating those skills through certification. And then on to senior management. What's great about technology, and I think most of us know this, is that the highest paying jobs aren't always in management. You can be a technical professional and have equitable pay for someone in a managerial role. But for those who want to go on and lead organizations, you have the ability to do that. And then how do you prepare yourself for those types of about what team you're on, especially when as a technical professional. I spoke a little bit about this earlier, and I just want to dive in a little bit deeper. But if traditionally we've thought of red team and blue team, red team are offensive roles. You think about ethical hacking, penetration testing, in other types of, again, offensive measures that we take, again, used to protect our environment, or protect, and again, not that we're using these for nefarious means. Again, we're not creating bad actors and ethical hackers doing that. They're hacking in an ethical way. And then there's our blue team. These are, again, more defensive posture. So we talk about, we talked a little bit about incident response. We've discussed threat hunting, but also digital forensics and other types of roles. And now we're talking a lot about purple teaming. We're bringing these together. So essentially, how do we facilitate, if not the merger of these roles, at least the actions that they're taking, so we get the most effective results from our teams. And in some cases, organizations are creating that, purple teams. There's less, I won't say division, but distinction between red team and blue team. In other cases, it's really from a cultural standpoint, making sure that all those people are working together. Also, what's not here, and you really should mention too, is if you are in an IT profession, it is the importance of IT professionals in cybersecurity. If you're a system administrator or networking engineer, you know that many times you're involved in this process. If you don't have a desire to become a cybersecurity professional, you probably need to have some of the same knowledge and skills, right? You're involved in identifying potential breaches, right? Whether that's monitoring log files, or it's in some of the actions that you take, right? Prescribing specific privileges to groups or individuals. It's how you install and configure a firewall, a router, a server. And then you may be also involved in the response as well, right? It may be patching software, reconfiguring software, or hardware. So again, even if you don't think of yourself in this blue team or red team because you are an IT professional and sit adjacent to this, again, you may actually participate in these processes and need to have an understanding of the same skills and knowledge. And I show this chart not to overwhelm, but this is really the world we live in. The fact is there's so many choices. And there's a lot of great choices on this chart. And this chart represents training and certifications that are available in the marketplace today. But what's really important to note here is that you really need to define what the skills that you need, right? So if you're at that novice level, what are the building blocks to get you to where you need to perform in a cybersecurity profession? If you're in a defensive position or an offensive position, or something that is more network-based, or again, or management. You have to think about, again, what are the skills you need as opposed to what's the most popular, right? What's going to help you advance your career, or developing the skills that will allow you to perform the appropriate forensics, or to be a pen tester, or to handle incidents in a both efficient and effective manner. So again, this is not meant so much to overwhelm, it's to just show you all the options that are out there, and the fact that it is based on those roles. And NICE framework does a great job of this, not only having the framework, but you can also see how products, and I'll show you how certain Nexus products map to those roles as well. And if you need some advice, right, we all can use some advice. Sometimes it's unsolicited, but it's good for us, and other times we are soliciting it. But speak to your manager. Try to understand the skills that are needed in your organization, right? If you're a consultancy and maybe all you provide is red teaming type of offensive measures, then obviously you want to develop your skill set there. If you're in a large organization, again, you may have various job roles, and again, across the whole range. It could be that you're in a mid-sized or small organization, and you're going to need to have potentially a number of different skills. You're going to have to understand pen testing, but also threat hunting, because you're the person, or you're one of several people that do those jobs. And review the skills listed in job description. So if you're seeking a career in whether it's with a specific company or a specific type of job role, go out and learn more about that. Go to the NICE framework, understand, again, what are those knowledge, skills, and abilities I need to perform in that job. And I've always, you can always engage your learning consultant, whether that's internal to your organization or within someone at New Horizons, to better understand what are the offerings available to me that, again, can develop the appropriate skills to help me to continue to progress my career. I spoke a little bit about alignment to the NICE framework. This is just a representative sample from CertNexus. Again, all of our other colleagues in the industry, we've mentioned ISC Squared and ISACA earlier in the presentation. They will have similar mappings as well. But what it does, it allows you to see what products map to what specific categories, and within those categories, the specific job roles. So you can look at CyberSec first responder, and that's going to actually prepare you for job roles in protect and defend, analyze, and investigate. So whether you want to be a forensics analyst, a threat warning analyst, or a cyber defense incident responder, that training and certification can prepare you for those roles. The same thing with a cybersecurity coder. If you're a coding professional and you're a software developer or a software assessor, you have the ability, again, to learn the skills necessary to perform in those roles in that training and certification. And again, the NICE framework lists more of these as well, but it gives you a really good idea of, hey, how can I map, again, take that really broad, potentially confusing map, and how can I narrow that down? So I'm looking at specific offerings to help me to gain those skills. And with that, we're going to go to our fourth poll.
All right, I just launched the next poll. The question here is, which job role are you preparing for next? We have SOC analyst, incident responder, pen tester, network engineer, and other. All right, give everyone a few more seconds here. I'm closing the polls. So we have 25% saying SOC analyst. We have 5% saying the incident responder, 5% as pen tester, 20% network engineer, and 48% saying they're looking for a different role.
Great. Good. Well, it's great to see the diversity, because that's really what we need. And I think one of the things I neglected to mention up front is that one of the challenges we have right now with the cybersecurity profession is we have too many people prepared to enter that funnel. We need to widen that funnel. So even people that are coming from non-traditional backgrounds that want to transition to the career. So whether you have a liberal arts background, from university, or have not attended university and are going through a skills development programs that are offered through New Horizons, or potentially coming from another profession, but again, have an interest. We really need to see all that coming together. And again, the training and certifications that are provided are a great gateway for you to enter the profession itself. So I'm going to hand it over to Mayan that'll help us into our Q&A.
Great, thank you so much. If you have any questions, please take a minute here to type in the question section of the platform here, and then we'll just get to them in a few minutes. Just want to say, if you're interested in any of the material that Jeff has presented here on this webinar, or if you just have any questions regarding cybersecurity and what course offerings we have, please contact your local center for more information. You can log on to newhorizons.com and do a quick zip code search to find the center nearest you. As you know, New Horizons has been delivering online classes since 2001, and a lot of our instructors and facilitators are trained to engage our learners and encourage class participation in any learning meeting possible. And a great example is, like, a lot of our courses, we do offer some post-class resources just to help encourage long-term growth and continuous learning even beyond the classroom. If you want to sign up for any of our webinars, we do have our schedule up to date. Like I mentioned, we have a month-long series just to support and support cybersecurity awareness. Jeff has another great session coming up next week on the 15th. If you enjoyed what I presented today and also want to hear what he presented even last week during our kickoff, the recording is also available. So visit New Horizons to also sign up there for our webinars. Goodness, Jeff, you did such a great job. I don't see any questions coming in at the moment. If anyone has any questions, feel free to type those in. I do want to bring to your attention, we do have a handout section that we do have the presentation and a Certain Nexus Skills Roadmap available to download as well. So you can get those assets and those materials for you. Jeff, you did mention about a cybersecurity workforce framework, a link to that. Do you happen to know what that is? We have a couple questions coming in about that specifically.
I can provide that to you. If you actually search on NICE Cybersecurity Workforce Framework, you will go to the NIST U.S. government site, which actually provides that framework, and it will have exactly the information that I showed, which are those categories, specialties, areas, the job roles, and then also will provide links to the certifications that fulfill those as well.
Perfect. We do have a question. I believe it may be in regards to the skills roadmap. Person said they love the certification progression chart. What is the significance of the text color? For example, the Security Plus was written in white and then or yellow text on the same color background. Not sure if there is any significance, but that was a question that did come in.
Yeah, there's not any significance. It was just really color coded. So again, to differentiate between the certifications.
Great. Another question that did come in is, do you have any certification advice for a longtime IT pro who is just new to cybersecurity?
Yeah, so if it depends how much you've been exposed to cybersecurity. If you've had a CompTIA Security Plus is a great place to start for those that have need that foundational experience. You can actually go to the CompTIA site and look at the exam objectives. If it's something you're familiar with, then you can move on and past that. So some good opportunities. We have our CyberSec First Responder, again, which is helpful to someone that wants to be in that blue team, whether you're a SOC analyst, an incident handler, et cetera. There's other certifications that are available if you want to become a pen tester, or if you do want to become other specific roles. So what I would say is, again, if you've been in IT a long time and you haven't had the official title of security consultant or security analyst, but you've been doing some of it, you may want to bypass Security Plus. If it's really, you've been kind of heads down and just in the system administration networking side and really haven't done anything, Security Plus is a great place to start.
Great. That seems to be all the questions that we've had. Oh, I spoke too soon. We did have another one come in here. It says, how many persons for a security team do you expect a company to have who within the industrial industry when they have about 3,000 computers? Sorry, I'm trying to dissect this question here.
I get that. So essentially what we're asking is essentially what's the number of security professionals you would expect to have in a company of roughly 3,000 employees. And that is going to be determined by several factors. One is the industry, the amount of infrastructure and data that you have. So that's going to obviously have an impact. I always say though that unfortunately the ratio of number of security professionals to employees is abhorrent. We would never allow for that in a classroom, right? A lot of times it's in the thousands to one. what we'll see though is that, an organization about that size, let's just say 2,500 to 5,000 employees, typically you will see a separate security team. That security team may still report up into the CIO and might report up separately to the CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer. But more often than not, in a company that size, you may not have an entirely separate reporting chain. So you might report up in the CIO. You probably will have a security department that would probably number in, somewhere between, say, 3 to 6 individuals. If you're a really data intensive company and that is the core of your business, it may be slightly higher. But unfortunately, the numbers aren't as great as we would expect them to be. But that's on average what we see when we're working with organizations.
Great. We do have another question that came in. Says, right now, the only DOL SOC code for cybersecurity is 15-112200. When is NIST and NICE, the standard, going to get the additional positions such as ISM or ISSO in the DOL SOC codes?
So in regards to the framework itself, they are in the process of updating the framework. So that's an active project. I don't know the exact timing of it, but they have actually published that and have called for comments. So they are looking at updating that. Again, I don't know the exact date for the delivery of that.
Great. Another question is, this person has been an IT auditor performing SOX and SOC testing, but wants to transition into a more cybersecurity role. Thoughts and suggestions on where to start?
Yeah, really what you're looking, probably given your background and it seems like interest, is that you want some of those, you may want to aim towards some of the blue team type roles. Again, looking at that, SOC analyst, incident responder. Again, it would leverage all the experience that you bring to that, given your experience today, as well as, assuming those are your potential interests as well. And again, there's a great need for those roles today. So I would look at those blue team certifications. I know in our portfolio, it's the CyberSec first responder, and then it would be other again, whether it's from ISACA or other providers, like types of certifications that are focused on that. But what I would again recommend is go out to the NICE framework and look at the job roles that are of greatest interest to you. You can drill down, and really when you get into those knowledge, skills, and abilities and expand on those tasks and say, hey, are these the kind of tasks I want to do every day? And then you can go from there and back into the training and certification that you may need.
All right, any last minute questions here? Well, Jeff, as we close out, I want to thank you again for presenting on behalf of New Horizons, and for everyone for joining us. Just a quick reminder that the recording of today's session is going to be sent out later today, so be on the lookout for that. Hopefully we can see some of you again on our upcoming sessions, and don't forget, Jeff has another webinar next week on the 15th. With that being said, thank you, and you may now log off. Thanks again.
Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely day.